contacted someone in New York to entice them, that's enough to count as venue, even if the act happened elsewhere. Now, the unanimity clarification. They argue that jurors don't have to agree on all the details, just that one specific instance of SEX trafficking occurred. For example, if juror number 12 agrees that Jane was trafficked on one particular night, they don't all need to agree how exactly she was trafficked that night, just that it happened. So they're not dropping charges in Diddy's case, they're dropping legal theories.
They're not dropping charges.
Real quickly. So
they
the current
dropping
charges listed in his indictment.
They not dropping charges, like I said.
And violent crimes in aid of racketeering. A theory of liability is like a legal pathway. Think of it as how the crime was committed or what law supports the conviction. For example, you can be guilty of SEX trafficking by directly committing the act or by aiding and abetting someone else to do it. You can commit kidnapping under California law or New York law. Those are two separate legal theories. So they're no longer pursuing these specific legal theories. Attempted kidnapping under California and New York law, attempted arson under California law, and aiding and abetting SEX trafficking. They're not asking the jury to convict Diddy under these legal theories anymore, but the main charges still remain: SEX trafficking, under direct liability, forced labor, and racketeering. Let's just say you're trying to prove someone committed a robbery. You can argue they personally robbed a bank, they drove the getaway car, or they planned it and gave instructions. If halfway through the trial you realize there's no solid proof that they drove the car, you might drop that argument, but you still are going forward with the case saying they robbed the bank and they planned it. So they may not have proof that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car. They may not have proof that he kidnapped Capricorn Clark and had her going back and forth to that warehouse for 5 days. However, they're going to remove the predicate acts, the underlying crimes that form the basis of a bigger crime. But that bigger crime is still there. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's jump into day number 29. Okay, so court begins at 9:37 today. The judge says, "Good morning. We emailed the charge to the parties, but there are still times government is capitalized. We'll change that and instruct about witnesses. There should be no interruptions during closing arguments. We're going to all tell the jurors that it will be a shorter day today, longer tomorrow, and then during deliberations, it'll be up to them. Prosecutor Slavic will be in at 10 o'clock to deliver the closing arguments." Alexandra Shapiro says, "There are some italics we want out." The judge says, "Okay." So while we're waiting for the jurors to come in, I just want to note that the prosecutors took 6 weeks to present their case, and the defense team took about 30 minutes. At 10:02, the judge says, "While we wait, Ms. Comey, do you have the laptop ready?" Prosecutor Comey says, "I'll defer to Ms. Garagos." Ms. Garagos says, "We'll have it ready tomorrow." Judge says, "With only the admitted exhibits, I'll ask tomorrow." All right, let's bring in our jury. Now, before the jury actually came in, Diddy was seen thumbing through a briefcase before pouring himself a cup of water. Now, he seemed at ease throughout most of this trial, but on today, his body language suggested that he was a bit nervous. As the jury walked in, he started rubbing his palms together and shifting his weight from foot to foot. You have to realize, foot to foot. You have to realize Diddy's life is now in their hands. All rise. The judge says, "Give your attention to the parties' closing argument. Today will be shorter, the U.S. closing, tomorrow the defense, the rebuttal, my instructions, and begin deliberations. The jurors who will stay." Prosecutor Slavic said, "Over the last few weeks, you've learned that Sean Combs is the leader of a criminal organization. He doesn't take no for an answer. He's into kidnapping, arson, forced labor, bribery of security officers, and the brutal crimes of SEX trafficking. Consider 2 moments. March 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel. The defendant got violent with Cassie. You saw what happened. He dragged her back to the freak-off. 2024 at Jane's house. The defendant choked and hit her. She ran, couldn't get away. These are chapters in the same book. The defendant counted on silence and shame. He thought that his fame and wealth and power put him above the law. Over the last 7 weeks, you've heard how he used his staff to promote his power. No one could stop him. We'll talk about RICO, including SEX trafficking and transportation for prostitution, which are also separately charged as standalone crimes. You may have heard of racketeering. When someone commits a crime as part of a group, they are even more dangerous. A group of people whose purpose was to serve and protect